No one remembered his name.
No one cared if he lived or vanished beneath the sands. But that night,
The desert itself remembered.
for somewhere beneath the stars, destiny whispered his forgotten name. And by dawn, the boy who was nothing became the man who would change everything. The world had once forgotten his name.
A boy of dust, a shadow in the streets, a whisper lost in the wind.
But destiny has strange ways of remembering those who dream.
And on that morning, as the first light touched the golden sands of Agrabah, Aladdin opened his eyes to a world reborn. The air shimmered with warmth, carrying the scent of sun-baked earth and new beginnings.
He had held it through darkness, through fear, through the weight of the cave's silence. Now it rested gently in his palms, no longer a mystery, but a promise.
The light of dawn spilled over the rooftops, soft and golden, and the boy who once hid from the world now stood bathed in its glow. He thought of the days when hunger gnawed at his ribs,
when his mother stitched clothes under candlelight, and when every dream seemed too expensive for a poor man's son. Yet somehow, through courage and chance, the heavens had heard him. He felt the hum of the lamp, like a heartbeat matching his own.
It was power, but not just for himself. It was hope, and hope was meant to be shared. The birds soared across the desert horizon, their wings painting streaks of white against the amber sky. Each feather seemed to whisper a truth he had almost forgotten, that no one remains a beggar forever if they dare to dream.
He took a breath, deep and steady. Somewhere beyond this city, fate waited shimmering like a mirage.
But for now, he smiled, lifted the lamp toward the rising sun, and whispered a silent vow that his story would no longer be one of sorrow. The wind carried that vow away, and in its wake, the lamp flickered softly as if the universe itself had heard.
In that single moment, Aladdin no longer belonged to the dust.
He belonged to the dawn.
It began with a single wish not for power, but for dignity.
The morning after, Agrabah woke to a sight no eye had ever seen.
Where once stood a cracked house of clay and wood, now rose a palace that gleamed like molten gold beneath the sun.
Domes shimmered with sapphire glass, fountains spilled rivers of light, and the wind carried the scent of roses that had never grown in this desert before. Aladdin's mother stood frozen at the gates, her trembling hands covering her mouth as tears blurred her vision. The boy she had raised in hunger and struggle knows stood before her not in jewels, but in gratitude.
He took her hand gently and led her inside, where light poured through marble arches and laughter replaced years of silence. Servants appeared, silver trays gleaming, and for the first time in her life, she sat before a feast fit for royalty.
The city outside buzzed like a beehive of rumors.
People crowded in the streets, pointing, gasping, marveling. Who could do this overnight?
They whispered.
A prince from the heavens, said one.
A sorcerer, said another. But inside, Aladdin only watched his mother smile a smile worth more than every jewel the genie could conjure.
As dusk descended, the palace bathed in golden light, and Aladdin walked through its halls, listening to the gentle murmur of fountains settling against marble walls. He paused before a window overlooking the city that had once forgotten him.
The lamps below flickered like constellations on earth. He whispered softly into the night, "This is not the end of my dream, it's where it begins." And from somewhere unseen, the desert wind replied with the faintest laugh of magic. The wind swirled around Aladdin, the palace glowing faintly in the distance.
The sunrise returned, washing Agrabah in gold once more, and so a legend began again.
When dawn came again, Agrabah no longer slept. The city stirred like a heartbeat, alive with wonder and disbelief. From market stalls to royal corridors, the same story was told again and again.
A mysterious young man had turned sand into splendor,
and his palace, radiant and strange, stood where no foundation had ever been.
Merchants paused mid-trade, forgetting their bargains. Children climbed rooftops just to glimpse the glowing domes. Old men whispered blessings, while women clutched their scarves in awe.
Even the guards stopped to stare, uncertain whether they were dreaming, and far above them all, the Sultan stepped onto his balcony.
The morning breeze tugged at his robes as he gazed toward the horizon. There, beneath the sun's full gaze, a new palace blazed like a second dawn.
He frowned, but his eyes held curiosity more than fear.
Who could build such wonder overnight? He turned to his vizier, murmuring words lost in the wind, and though no one heard them, the air itself seemed to shiver with the question.
Down below, Aladdin walked among his gardens, roses blooming where there had been only sand. He brushed his hand across the petals, feeling life pulse beneath his fingertips. He had never known peace like this, soft, fragile, undeserved.
The laughter of children outside reached his ears, and he smiled, knowing that wonder could heal even a broken city. But beneath its smile lay a quiet restlessness, because even surrounded by gold and glory, his heart felt an emptiness no treasure could fill.
And fate, ever watchful, was already preparing the answer. It waited in the palace beyond the horizon, where eyes he had never met were destined to meet his. It began with music, the kind that floats above the noise of the market, carried by laughter and wind, gilded with the scent of spice and sun.
The city was alive that afternoon, a festival of color, light, and the promise of something new.
Aladdin rode through the streets on a white steed, his cloak flowing behind him like liquid gold.
The people bowed, murmuring blessings, their faces glowing with the reflection of his newfound radiance.
But Aladdin's eyes were distant. For all the wonder surrounding him, something within him yearned for a meaning greater than admiration. And high above, in the royal palace draped with silks of crimson and pearl, a curtain fluttered. The princess had heard the songs, the tales of the stranger who rose from nothing. She had listened quietly as her maids whispered of miracles and men. But now curiosity pulled her to the balcony.
The world below unfolded before her like a painting, and there among the color and chaos she saw him.
A single figure moving through the light, calm and radiant. Their eyes met, and for one impossible moment, time forgot its duty. The world stilled, sound dissolved, and breath became memory. His gaze held no arrogance, no claim, only wonder.
And hers, no fear, only recognition.
Two souls, strangers by fate, connected by something wordless and eternal.
Then, as swiftly as it began, the world resumed.
The music returned, laughter spilled again, and the princess turned away, her pulse unsteady. But the image lingered, a stranger's face beneath the desert sun,
and eyes that made her believe in something she had never known before, destiny. But as the sun set behind Agrabah, destiny had only just begun to stir.
That night, Agrabah held its breath, for the kingdom had seen the impossible, a palace born from sand, gleaming like gold beneath the stars.
Whispers spread like wind through corridors of marble and silk, carrying one name that no one truly knew.
The Sultan could not rest. Beneath the glow of torches and moonlight, he paced before his throne, his mind circling the mystery that now consumed his kingdom. A prince with no name, a miracle with no reason, it defied the order of the world. Find him, he commanded at last, his voice echoing through the marble halls like a verdict of destiny. And so, word spread through every corner of Agrabah.
Spies, scholars, and merchants all sought the truth of the golden stranger.
But Aladdin, unaware of the storm rising around him, walked quietly through his moonlit garden. Lanterns swayed among the trees, their flames dancing like fireflies.
He could not sleep.
Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her, the princess's eyes, soft yet strong, curious yet kind. It was not love yet, but something deeper, the recognition of a missing piece.
He thought of the lamp resting on his table. It gleamed faintly, humming with power beyond reason.
He wondered if even magic could touch the realm of the heart.
Could miracles create affection? Could gold summon love?
The wind whispered no. For the first time, he realized that what he desired could not be commanded.
It had to be earned, step by step, moment by moment. He smiled, a quiet acceptance blooming in his chest.
Somewhere far away, in the royal chambers, the princess sat by her window, unable to sleep.
Her thoughts too drifted toward the marketplace, toward that same pair of eyes. And though neither knew it, their hearts had already begun to move toward each other like stars drawn by gravity.
The night stretched wide and endless, its silence filled with secrets only the stars could hear. Aladdin stood alone at the edge of his balcony, the desert wind brushing against his face like an old friend. He looked out across the sleeping city, its rooftops glittering with starlight, its towers wrapped in silver mist. He thought of everything he had gained: wealth, safety, power, and how small it all seemed beside the simple ache in his heart. The lamp rested beside him, glowing softly, patient and alive.
He ran his fingers along its edge, feeling the pulse of ancient magic hum beneath his touch.
Once, he had begged it for escape, for survival. Now, he found himself whispering only silence. For the first time, there was no wish to make. He wanted nothing the lamp could give, only the chance to be seen, truly seen, by the one who had looked at him and paused time itself.
He closed his eyes, and in that stillness, the lamp glowed brighter, as if understanding. Perhaps even magic could recognize love. Perhaps even destiny could wait.
The wind carried a whisper through the night, not of command, but of promise. High above, in her chamber, the princess lay awake, the moonlight spilling across her face.
Somewhere deep in her heart, she felt the same quiet pull, as though the stars themselves were calling two souls to meet again. And in that silent hour, the boy who was once forgotten became the man who would one day change the fate of kings. For love, once found, becomes the greatest wish of all.